a small error that followed. One astronaut forever. It was barely noticeable at first, a minor deviation, a number slightly out of place, the kind of thing most people would ignore without a second thought. In space, there is no such thing as a small error. This mistake didn't cause an explosion. It didn't end the mission. In fact, everything appeared to continue normally. And that's what made it dangerous. To understand why this error still matters today, we need to understand how consequences in space are often delayed. Problems don't always announce themselves immediately. Sometimes they wait. The astronaut followed procedure precisely. Checklists completed, systems verified, data logged, nothing flagged as critical, nothing demanded immediate correction. This is the cruel irony of certain kinds of error. The procedure itself was executed correctly. Every item on every list was addressed. The training was followed to the letter, and yet an error still entered the system, not through carelessness or inattention, but through something subtler and harder to defend against. But somewhere in the process, a single assumption slipped through. It was subtle, easy to miss, and once it passed unnoticed, it became part of the mission. At first, there were no signs of trouble. The spacecraft responded as expected. Trajectory stable, readings nominal, confidence held. Yet the astronaut felt a quiet unease. Not panic, instinct, a sense that something hadn't aligned perfectly. This is one of the most underestimated aspects of expert performance. The role of intuition as an early warning system. The astronaut's experience had built a kind of pattern recognition that operated below the level of conscious reasoning. It could not produce a specific reading or a data point, but it could generate a signal, a subtle wrongness that the instruments had not yet confirmed. That feeling was dismissed, and that decision would linger far longer than the mission itself. The error didn't reveal itself immediately. Hours passed, then days. Everything appeared stable. The mission progressed, objectives met one by one. The accumulation of completed tasks created a sense of forward momentum that is natural and necessary in long-duration work. Progress feels like evidence of correctness. When things are going well, the human tendency is to credit the approach, not to question it. That tendency serves efficiency, but it can delay the recognition of a quiet problem running beneath the surface. But subtle inconsistencies began to appear. Minor corrections required more often than expected. Readings drifted slightly before returning to normal. Nothing alarming, just enough to be noticed. The pattern of minor corrections is itself informative once it is recognized. Any single correction might be routine. A sequence of them, all in the same direction, suggests something else. The system is compensating. Something underneath is pushing against equilibrium. The corrections are responses to a cause that has not yet been identified. The astronaut reviewed logs carefully. Data was cross-checked. Systems recalibrated. Each adjustment solved the symptom, not the source. This distinction is fundamental. Treating symptoms is not the same as treating causes, and in complex systems, the two can diverge significantly. The realization arrived slowly. This wasn't random behavior. It was patterned, predictable, which meant it had a cause. Predictability is diagnostic. Random noise produces irregular results. A systematic error produces consistent directional drift. Once the astronaut recognized the pattern as pattern rather than noise, the investigation shifted. Not, what is wrong right now, but what was wrong to begin with? That shift in framing changed everything. Tracing it back revealed the truth. A single step, executed correctly, but based on an incorrect assumption. Not negligence, not carelessness, just human limitation. The correction was made. The system stabilized. The mission continued without incident. From the outside, the story ended there, but for the astronaut, it didn't. Because knowing you caused a problem, even a manageable one, changes how you see responsibility. The manageability of the outcome does not determine the weight of the reflection. The astronaut did not measure the error by what it produced. They measured it by what it revealed. It revealed a gap in their process, a place where assumption had substituted for verification. That gap was now visible, and it could not be unseen, especially in an environment where margins are thin and trust is absolute. After the mission, the error followed the astronaut home, not in reports or reprimands, but in memory. Memory is not neutral. It does not archive experiences with equal weight. Moments of significant realization tend to persist with unusual clarity, returning unbidden, replaying themselves in full detail at unpredictable intervals. This is not dysfunction. It is the mind doing its most important work, ensuring that what mattered once continues to matter. They replayed the moment repeatedly, the assumption, the decision, the instant where attention could have gone one step further, one question deeper. Replay is uncomfortable, but it is productive. Each iteration clarifies something. The reconstruction becomes more precise. The lesson embedded in the memory becomes more accessible. The astronaut was not punishing themselves. They were learning with a seriousness that matched the stakes of the environment. Officially, the mission was a success. The error was documented, analyzed, and corrected. No lasting damage, no headlines. In the formal record, the mission is a clean entry. Objectives met, crew returned. Systems nominal at conclusion. The institutional story contains the error as a data point, processed and closed. But the astronaut's internal story is not governed by institutional documentation. It continued long after the file was closed. Internally, the weight remained. Spaceflight does not allow for denial. Every outcome, good or bad, is traced back to human action. And when you know you were part of the chain, responsibility becomes personal. This accountability is one of the defining features of spaceflight culture. It is also one of its most psychologically demanding aspects. There is no ambiguity about agency. Every decision, every assumption, every moment of attention given or withheld is ultimately attributable. That is how the system is designed, and it means that errors cannot be externalized. They must be owned. The astronaut spoke about it later, not as a confession, but as a lesson. Mistakes are rarely dramatic. They are quiet. They slip through gaps created by routine and confidence. This reframing of error as structural rather than personal is both honest and useful. It shifts attention from blame to prevention. It asks not, who failed, but where did the system allow failure to pass undetected? That question opens productive conversations that personal blame closes. This experience reshaped how they approached every task afterward. Slower, more deliberate, assumptions challenged rather than trusted. The change was not fearfulness. It was rigor. The astronaut had not become paralyzed by the possibility of error. They had become more precise in the practice of preventing it. That distinction matters. Fear-based caution slows everything equally. Wisdom-based deliberateness slows only what deserves to be slowed. The conflict was not about blame. It was about awareness. Understanding that even expertise does not eliminate error. It only reduces its frequency. This is one of the most important and most difficult truths in any high-stakes field. Expertise creates confidence. Confidence, unchecked, creates vulnerability. The expert who has stopped questioning their assumptions is not more safe than the novice who has never formed them. In some ways, the expert faces a more insidious risk. And that awareness carried a cost. Because once you understand how easily a small mistake can ripple outward, you never stop looking for it. Years later, the error still mattered. Not because of what it caused, but because of what it taught. The astronaut became known for caution, for asking questions others overlooked, for slowing decisions when pressure pushed toward speed. This reputation was not a limitation. It was a contribution. In environments where speed and confidence are constantly rewarded, the willingness to slow down and ask one more question is a form of leadership that protects everyone. That reputation was earned in orbit. The lesson was simple but unforgiving. Perfection is an illusion. Vigilance is not. In space, systems fail slowly before they fail completely. Human attention is often the last line of defense, and that defense depends on humility, on the willingness to ask whether what feels true is actually verified, on the discipline to treat familiarity as a reason to look more carefully, not less. The astronaut had learned all of this at a cost that could have been far higher. They chose to carry it forward rather than set it down. This story matters because it applies far beyond spaceflight. In medicine, engineering, leadership, and daily life, small assumptions shape outcomes. Most consequences are delayed. Many are avoidable. The same mechanism that allowed a single unverified assumption to work its way through a space mission works its way through operating rooms, financial models, construction projects, and daily decisions. The environments are different. The principle is identical. The astronaut carried that awareness forward, not as regret, but as responsibility. Sometimes the most lasting impact of a mission isn't what goes right. It's the quiet mistake that ensures you never stop paying attention. Sometimes the smallest shift in perspective becomes the beginning of a new future.